Relationship experts react to divorce lawyers giving marital advice.
This is going to be an interesting one.
I'm kind of excited for this.
Me too.
I've said that many times, but yes, I am excited for this.
Well, I'll say it. I'm excited for this too.
Okay. Thanks, dude. I
You
appreciate that.
You got it, man.
All right. Welcome to 12-Week Relationships. This is your place for better relationships in weeks, not years. My name is Pye.
I'm Dr. Glen.
Dr. Glen, we always like to preface this with, when we say relationships, we're talking about everything from the relationship you have with yourself out to your friendships, your business partnerships, yes, your marriages, partnerships, all that kind of stuff. And of course, family. Family's a big one too.
Absolutely, yeah.
But today, we found this great video. This is actually done by Glamour. It's divorce lawyers give relationship advice. And these look like high-power lawyers already. I mean, look at the backdrop to
I know,
this.
the backdrop is beautiful.
They're freaking in New York.
They're in a high-rise.
The dude's picking his nose right now. I don't know what he's
snorting coke, man. Before the shoot.
He's getting amped up and ready for this.
Like,
So we're going to watch this video and do a bit of blind reacting to it and give you some, our thoughts on their thoughts. I'm stoked for this.
Let's do it.
I think you watched this, but I waited.
Oh, did you?
I waited to watch this.
Oh,
I got like maybe 10 seconds in. I'm like, oh, we got to do it.
See, I thought you wanted us to watch it before, so I watched it.
It's a half blind reaction.
All right.
You ready for this?
The lottery, you're probably not going to win.
Wait,
but
what
if
did he say?
Marriage is like the lottery, you're probably not going to win. But if you win, what you win is so great that it's worth trying. It's worth buying the ticket and taking the ride.
Wait. Okay. Well, marriage is like the lottery. I mean, I'm assuming he's talking about like divorce and statistics, right?
I think he's saying finding a partner is like a lottery because the lottery is like one in like, what is it, 200, 300 million?
Yeah. Okay, so he's not talking about, well, then it says right afterwards, though, that it's estimated that about half of marriages end in divorce or permanent separation. So 50% is a little bit different than like one in millions.
But I think what he's saying is like, man, if you find that one, it's like winning the lottery.
Yeah. Okay. He has a point here. Not just this. I think they kind of screwed up the point with this divorce statistic because the other side of this. So yes, about half marriages end in divorce. Again, we've talked about this multiple times that statistic can vary depending on where and what you're looking at. So anywhere between 40 to 80% or so can end in divorce, right? The question though is, of the people that stay together, how many are actually happy? Because if you factored that into this, then it would be much more like a lottery.
But that doesn't fit his business though.
No.
Trying to fix marriages. That doesn't work with a divorce lawyer. So
he's like, if you're staying together and you're unhappy, come to me. I can help you.
Exactly. We'll help you stay together for free. Yeah.
That's not his job, Glenn. He doesn't want to help anyone stay together. But yeah, in terms of like, there is some element of, I don't know. I don't know about that whole analogy, dude. I mean, a lottery you have no control over whatsoever. This one, you actually can choose who you end up with. So
yeah. And then, that's why it's 50%, right? It's not like, 1 in 200 million, right? And then to me, like who you are and where you are at the time is going to reflect the partners that you choose and eventually who you marry.
Yeah. What I love about this is that obviously they're going to speak from their perspective, which is they only see divorce.
Yeah, exactly.
So like from their perspective, they don't see, nobody that's happy goes to these people.
Yeah.
So
I love it. It's a beautiful thing. It's a lottery ticket, but it's going to probably end in divorce, man.
All right. If it works, the reward is so good that it's worth buying the ticket and taking the ride. I'm already having a blast. We're 10 seconds into this. Okay. Oh, we got multiple faces. 3 divorce lawyers.
53% of marriages end in divorce in New York State. So if I said to you there's a 53% chance that when you walk out the front door today, you're going to get hit in the head with a bowling ball, you would either stay inside.
I can't do this. He just related marriage to getting hit in the head
with a bowling ball.
Okay.
This guy's awesome, man.
This guy's amazing.
This guy.
This guy is designed to be a New York divorce lawyer.
Like I want him to represent me if this ever goes here. He's the best, man.
You go to him, he's like, look, nobody says they just want to get hit by a bowling ball. I'm going to help you with your marriage.
Dude, that would be so validating. Like, if you're going through a divorce, one, it's a lottery. And I'm like, yeah, it is a lottery. And two, you just got hit, bro. I'm
Yeah,
like,
if
yes.
you're pissed off, I mean, we just did an episode on that where like, if you're angry and you sit down with this guy and he's like,
Yeah.
hey man, you just entered the lottery and you lost. You're like, F yeah, I did.
Exactly.
Would you want to get hit by a bowling ball like walking on
You
stage?
didn't have a helmet on, bro. Look at you.
Okay.
Or at a minimum, you would wear a helmet.
I would wear a
You buy a house, they make you fill out 50 forms explaining that you understand the lead paint disclosures, you understand the loan, you understand everything. You get married, you didn't get a pamphlet.
Okay.
You didn't
I love that.
Yes,
There's some solid truth there.
I agree.
Do you want to go first to this?
Exactly. Like when you buy a house, you have to sign papers, you have to qualify for a loan disclosure, pre-qualification, and you find out what you qualify for.
Yep.
Similarly, in relationships, there should be something like that too. There should be an assessment or some type of like procedure legally where it shows that you are ready to be married.
Yeah, we just bought a home and I spent 2 months submitting paperwork to prove that I'm qualified for this loan and to be able to handle all this. It was ridiculous. You can go down to City Hall and just get a
get
marriage
married.
license.
At any time.
Be done.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that wasn't marriage, I mean, when we go back thousands of years, wasn't this an institution designed to protect society and to protect the assets created by the marriage?
Yes. But it's not happening anymore.
So if that's the case, if it was this thing
Yeah.
where you're supposed to, like, it's supposed to be for society, because it's not good for society for people to divorce, for them to leave their children unattended and untaken care of. Not saying that everybody does this, but I'm saying that you destroy assets, you destroy wealth, you do all this kind of stuff in that process. And that's what this whole thing was for. And yet today, this romantic notion has us so caught up in the idea of marriage that you can literally go and just get married without a second thought, when this entire institution was meant to basically do what it's not doing.
Well, I mean, the sacrament of marriage has changed. Like 50, 60, 70 years ago, it's about survival,
Yeah.
right? You needed to be married in order to survive and have a home and to eat.
50? Come on, bro. Not like 50 years ago, like 200 years ago.
200 years ago. Well, like in the 1950s or 60s, right?
I guess, yeah, you can go back to like
Yeah.
Great Depression
But like
times and-
during that period of time, like it was all about
Okay.
survival. There's a survival component. That's why
True,
divorce was lower, no?
yeah.
Whereas now, like you don't need to get married. It's about quality of life and purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to survive to be married.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how the dynamic of marriage, of what it is shifted culturally? How many different times? I mean, you go back to religious times, right? You go back to like, the birthplace of Christianity and Christ and his teachings. And he was literally saying not to get married. Like it was a higher path to not get married. But hey, if you can't walk the higher path, then sure, at least don't go fornicating with everybody that you see. Like that was his whole thing, was like, okay, if you can't walk this path of celibacy, then at least get married, right? But then you go back to other times, you go to like medieval times, and we're talking like this is how you unite kingdoms and how you protect assets and how you do all this kind of stuff and bring people together, right? And then we go to, like you said, back in Great Depression and 200 years ago, 300 years ago, this is really a survival thing. Like we need this to be able to band together to say that we're gonna help each other.
Yeah.
And now you need to be my best friend. You need to be like every single possible thing. You need to be my sexy person. I need you to be like everything. You need to be my provider, my sugar daddy, my sugar mama.
You're going to have to duck because the bowling ball's coming right now. Get your helmet on right now.
But when we look at marriage, we look at it as if it was always what we see it as today. And it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Not
Yeah.
from a religious context, not from a cultural context. It was never what it is today. And yeah, he's absolutely correct that most people enter into this thing with no clue what they're getting into.
Yeah. And then the expectations are higher now because it's about quality of life and you're going to fulfill my purpose.
Yeah,
That's a huge expectation to fill.
you're right. That makes it even more crazy because, I mean, like 300 years ago, it would have made more sense to enter into this loose-handedly because this is about like assets and survival and all this kind of stuff. And those are important things, right? But now you're entering into this with crazy consequences, and the expectations of what you're trying to create are insane. They're through the roof.
It's ridiculous. Like, when me and my wife got married, we didn't fight at all, hardly, before the marriage.
Yeah.
But once you got married and then 2 candles become 1, this is before God.
Your
and
fire burns brighter, bro.
This is the,
Your conflict is like doubled now.
This is a union. And then post wedding, like we were fighting a lot because then we were trying to fulfill that expectation.
Yeah.
And we had to dial that back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you have to be like everything to each other.
Everything to each other. And you can't do that.
No.
Yeah.
So
It's a good point, my man.
great job.
Yeah, good point, my man.
You can get a piece of paper
love
that
and
says,
bowling
oh,
ball
by
guy.
the way, you just did the most legally significant thing other than dying you'll ever do.
It's true, though. This is the most legally significant thing you will do. I mean, we talked about this in when I talked through my story. I mean, this was a decision that ended up costing millions, in addition to just years of heartache and damaging like children. And this has such an incredible impact on our lives, and we have no clue going into it what this is.
It needs to be treated more seriously before, like, because post-divorce, there's so many legalities that are involved, but there's nothing before the marriage. It's ridiculous.
That's another insane thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes you one day to go down to City Hall to get married, right? It took me 18 months to get divorced.
Yeah. It's crazy.
What?
No, agreed. And then like the most like regulatory thing that takes place is like in your religious community, you get religious counseling or something like that. But that's about it.
And that, not to say that that's not like a good significant piece of what you should, but it's like, that's like trying to, this is like, when I think of this analogy, I've been watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy lately. Yen and I are back into the show. Okay. But that amount of training that you get before getting married, whether it's spiritual counseling, whether you go and visit with a counselor a couple times, premarital counseling, all that kind of stuff, that amount of training is about like a surgeon going to do like their first open heart surgery, having, well, a week worth of experience on the job.
And literally, it's like, I watch Grey's Anatomy. I got this.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Like, I've seen the show. I'm pretty, let me just crack open that chest.
I got this. Give me the tools, man.
Is this chisel supposed to? Yeah,
exactly.
This shit's easy, man. I don't know. I'm liking bowling ball guy.
No, he's
The fact
good.
that you're entering into this significant legal contract, but most people have zero idea what's actually involved in that contract.
See, we're not BSing. Most people have zero idea what they're actually getting into.
Yeah. I mean, in California, it's a no-fault state. And then basically everything is basically shared.
Yep.
Yeah. Regardless of like right or wrong, fault or no fault, it doesn't matter.
I asked my lawyer early on, I was like, how can we move this to a at-fault state? She's like, it doesn't work that way. It's like,
damn it.
Let's
strike against California, man.
Contract and spend a lot more time figuring out what kind of cake we should have at the event is a really strange thing to me. Take
He's
marriage
right.
seriously.
If you want,
Take marriage as seriously as a bowling ball being dropped on your head from a New York high-rise.
I agree with that. No, it hits home more. He's convincing. Yeah.
If you knew if you knew that I'm just going to stick with this analogy because he went with this. So let's go with this. If there was a possibility in living in New York that bowling balls dropped from high rises, how would you prepare for that eventually happening? That's the preparation you should take into a marriage.
After completing the video, I feel like what he's trying to say emotionally, it'll feel like you won the lottery if it works out. But if it doesn't work out, you literally got hit in the head with a bowling ball and there's no in between.
But going back to my very realistic analogy of this being an actuality, right? If you knew bowling balls dropped from high rises, you'd construct like a little dome and like you'd make like a little portable dome that you'd carry around, like, and it'd probably take you.
If that were the case, wouldn't people just avoid New York altogether?
Sure. I mean, yes.
They wouldn't even go there.
But then you'd say the same thing about marriage. Like, this is the case and they don't avoid marriage. So then,
But you got to go in and get the ticket, man. You got to get the lottery ticket still, right?
but if you spent 3 to 6 months building your little personal dome,
That is true.
you'd be good to go. Just like in a marriage, if you spent 3 to 6 months building your little, I'm going to understand what this is, I think you're good.
I agree. Introspection and self-work is the dome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at this one. We got a new person. She starts with number 2, know exactly what you want in a spouse and realize they may not change. I think it's hard to know exactly what you want.
Yeah, this is more like, it's more on the partner than you.
I think you know yourself.
You gotta know
exactly.
yourself. Yeah, you gotta know yourself.
Okay, let's see what she has to say though.
To be with a person who is social and very outgoing, then don't
Linda.
marry someone who is a homebody.
Okay, Linda, honey, listen. Linda says if you want to be with somebody social, then don't marry someone that's a homebody. I get where she's going, but isn't that a little bit overly simplistic?
But that's something when you're dating someone. But if you're gonna cohabitate with someone and possibly have a family with them, wouldn't you want someone that's maybe more of a homebody?
I don't. I mean, I think she has a point where like, if you want to be social, marry someone that's social. But I think it's oversimplified.
Agreed. But I mean,
Maybe she's going to add on to that.
maybe. But I mean, if that's marriage or divorce, it's just about socialization or being a homebody.
It's a little bit
Yeah,
oversimplified.
I agree.
Okay, I'm hoping she goes a little bit deeper into this. We have a new guy here.
This
What's
is
his
who
name?
I want.
Val.
This is what I expect. If this doesn't work for you, then you may not be the right guy for me. It's critical.
I like Val. That was a good statement. This is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is number one piece. This is who I am.
Yeah.
If you don't know that, you're in trouble.
No, agreed.
And this is what I am hoping for. And if you can't be that person, then it's okay. Like I'm good.
But I think expectations have to be realistic. So, for example, if you have an expectation that you need to be rich, but you're broke,
Oh,
that
for
is
sure.
not a realistic expectation.
No.
So the expectations that you have to at least meet them yourself.
Yeah.
Therefore, expecting it from your partner.
You shouldn't be asking for things that you yourself are not.
Yes.
For sure. But I like that he's saying like, don't think that you're going to change somebody. And I think that's what Linda Honey said a minute ago was she was like, didn't she say that?
Yeah.
Don't
They're
expect
social.
them to change, right?
Yeah.
I think that was her point. And that's a great point. Don't marry someone that's a homebody and then be like, I'd really like you to be social.
Be social. Yeah. Because you know what you have when you're dating them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Critical that those expectations are communicated early.
You're not going to change all that much just because you're getting married. And the person that you're marrying is most probably not going to change all that much either.
Linda Honey, listen, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I think we change a lot. I think we change a ton. I just don't think we change according to the way that we want other people to change. Like, you're going to change and you're going to become, whoever it is that you are, and I'm going to change. You just may not be the person that I want you to be.
Yeah. I think what she's trying to say is you become more of who you are at your core, but that's not really true. I mean, that's partly true, but everyone's changing, everyone's growing. No one can ever go back and be the person that they were before.
Yeah.
Ever.
The idea, though, again, of her, I think her idea is spot on, that you shouldn't expect someone to change. You shouldn't expect them to be something that they are not. And that goes back to our previous guy, Val, who's like, this is what I'm hoping for. If you're not that thing, it's okay. Like we go our separate ways type thing. You shouldn't go into this expecting the other person to change. That's problematic.
But okay, what about maybe they're not that considerate, but then they can learn to become more considerate. Right? That's a change. Right?
I think that's kind of, it depends, right?
I think to me, when you talk about change means that most people, they talk about relationships, 70 people have 69% of issues that they're not going to resolve. Mm-hmm. And then that's the thing that usually doesn't change.
Yes. Those are their values and
all of their baggage and values together. So then you marry someone and you inherit another 69%. But through the process of growth, you actually can change those things.
Most certainly. The thing is that, and that's where I'm getting at, which is people change all the time. We all change. We just don't do it in the way that we do it according to our own desire, not to somebody else's.
I see what you're saying. So you're not changing to the expectation of the partner, but you are changing to your own personal
Correct.
growth.
I think it's too simple to say that people don't change, because they do. But when we say statements like that, what we mean is you're not changing in the way I want you to.
Right. And that's how you're interpreting what Linda's saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is, I
makes
think,
sense.
what she's trying to get at. And so if you're saying well, you're not that, if you're not that inconsiderate, I'm not going to go into a relationship expecting you to be considerate. And if being considerate is something that's really important to me, this isn't going to work out. I'm just not going to, I don't think I guess what I'm saying is that I wouldn't put that expectation on you. If that's something that's important to me, I'm not going to expect it of you. I'm going to find somebody who is that.
That makes sense.
I always tell clients, you divorced the person you were married to. And because clients come in and they'll say,
You divorced the person you were married
in
to.
this shocked way, say like, I can't believe he's being so vindictive. And I'll say, well, what was he like during the marriage? And they say, well, he was vindictive. I can't believe he's nickel and diming me on all the finances. And you say, well, what was he like with money during the marriage? And they say, well, he was the kind of person that would nickel and dime everybody.
I like this guy,
This
man.
guy's awesome.
This guy's awesome, man.
There was a reason why he was the lead person.
Yeah, Mr. Coke snorter or whatever. But
He's the anchor of this video.
yeah,
Okay. You want to come in on this one first?
I 100% agree. Because all the indicators of what this person will be like, you had it before the divorce, and it's just going to exacerbate and be worse.
But he's right, though, that people come to the table going, I can't, oh man, he or she, they've just totally changed. They're not the person that they were.
There's a level of denial with that, though. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so usually that person is probably in denial about themselves and about their partner.
Yeah, I think there's also that infatuation that begins with the relationship where we talk about this perceived relatability. Like you perceive the person to be something that they're not because we really want it to work out. We really want this thing these feel good feelings to last. So we kind of make the person into something they're not. And then as time goes and 12 and 18 months and 2 years down the road, we realize that they're not. Then we go, man, they've changed. In reality, no, that you just kind of lost the blinders.
Yeah, that's a really good point because you're basically like, it's like a movie reel in your head and you're projecting what you think they want, what you want them to be versus like waking up and like, wow, they're nothing like that at all.
Eventually the projector stops playing and you start seeing what it actually is. Like,
this movie sucks, man.
I wouldn't have walked into this movie.
This is a horror movie, man. Oh my God. So
he's spot on with that.
Why would you think he'd be different during the divorce?
I think one of the most important conversations you need to have with your partner before getting married is about your finances.
That's a good one.
Doing a prenup forces the couple to have a conversation. With a prenuptial agreement, there is mandatory financial disclosure. Most people are out there making their own money, and by the time they get married, they have their own bank accounts and, student loans or credit card debts. And those are all sort of important things to know about the person that you're going to marry.
I think
I like that. Mm-hmm. Linda Honey's got a good point there.
Oh, I 100% agree with
Linda Honey, listen, right? Do you not know that meme?
No.
Okay, we're gonna have to show Glenn the Linda Honey, because he probably just like, man, Pye's being super sexist right now. No, it's an actual meme.
Okay,
a little baby talking to it. I know you're not angry about it. I'm just saying. I'm projecting anger from the internet.
Got it.
Through you.
Okay, because they're gonna say that you're being sexist toward Linda.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, I think that was a really fantastic point, though. The conversation about a prenuptial agreement. I wanted to say a couple other things about this. So she brings up the idea of like, finances and that kind of, and that's important to figure out. Does the person have debt? Do they have student loans? Do they have like, how much money they have saved up? Are they being honest about that? That's all very, very important. But one of the biggest things for me is, how does that conversation even play out? If you bring up the idea of a prenuptial agreement and the other person says things like, how could you say something like that? That you don't even love me, or you wouldn't even be doing. If the other person gets hyper defensive and starts attacking, that is a huge red flag. Because again, if we're going into this as partners, why would there be a problem about discussing these things openly? So yes, it's important to know those things going into it, but it's more important to me and more important in our research that the conversation is handled in a similar manner. So it's a beautiful way to kind of present an area of potential conflict and to see how is that conflict resolved. And if one person just loses it and is fighting, then there's a huge red flag there. Why are you fighting this?
No, I agree, because finances is a huge deal. And then that means that they're closed off. They're living in this fantasy world. And then that's going to translate in your everyday life.
It can also mean that they have ulterior motives, right? Like if one person is like, no, like I'm just so opposed to this idea because I think it's completely unromantic and whatnot. And you're sitting here like trying to protect your family's assets, and those types of things. then is there potentially, like, are you doing this for a different reason? Are you marrying me because you want to potentially get access to those funds? And if in case we divorce,
No, I agree.
It's a great revealer of these underlying motivations.
I agree. And then let's say they don't even have those motives, but then the unrealistic standards, like living in the house, like you get married and like, you're supposed to take me out and you're supposed to be my knight in shining armor.
Yeah,
Where's my
yeah.
horse? Like just in everyday living, like that's just going to be a stressful way to live.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you were expecting this to be a partnership and they're expecting this to be you take care of me,
Yeah.
all of it comes out in that discussion.
Yeah. Why aren't you romancing me right now? It should be like this. It should be the fairy tale.
So yes, whether you have a prenuptial agreement or not, we would recommend one, but whether you have one or not, at least have the conversation.
Have the discussion and see how it goes, because that's going to dictate a lot of what's going to happen moving forward.
Okay.
A lot of us are looking for in someone to date is very different than what we're looking for in someone to marry. You know, I've had so many clients who, for example, their boyfriend or girlfriend has a job that is so cool to have a boyfriend or girlfriend doing. A musician, a chef. There's something very exciting about dating someone in that position. But think about what it's going to be like to be married to someone in that position. A chef who works really long hours late into the night. A person who travels for business and is on the road, 45 weeks of the year. What makes for a good boyfriend or girlfriend and what makes for a good spouse or partner, especially if you want to have kids, is a tremendously different thing much of the time. When you
I agree with that one. 100%.
I like that one.
Who you choose as a partner, as a boyfriend, girlfriend, or dating versus choosing someone that you're going to actually commit to and marry.
Yeah.
Two separate things.
Well, what are we talking about on the dating side? I mean, on the dating side, you're talking about there's no, usually when you date, it's like, we're having fun, we're having a good time type thing. It's not like you're necessarily planning out your future. You can date with intention, of course, but I'm just saying that like, we don't have such crazy expectations of just the person that we're necessarily dating. So I don't think you necessarily want something completely different. I think that you're thinking short term versus long term in these cases. So,
well, I think there's boundary issues though. Like, you're living your own life, I'm living my own life. But when you're committing to someone, there's some separation, but there's a committed lifestyle that changes things.
yeah, yeah. That was the big piece to me, was when he started talking about the lifestyles. He's spot on with that, because you have to realize that the person that you're dating, they have committed to a certain lifestyle. And we go back to like our framework, right? Like if you, in his analogy, he talks about the chef. And if let's say that you're a lawyer, you work at his law firm, then you are separated the vast majority of the time. Plus he has odd hours. She's going to be working, whatever hours based on her clients. So when we go back to our framework, we look at, okay, the opportunities for quality time, for common interests, for the ability to connect and to create, relatability between the two. All of these things are dramatically diminished. We're not going to be able to relate. We're not going to be able to spend time together. We're not going to have similar, or at least even if we do have common interest, how often we'll be able to do those things. That thought process of going through the lifestyle, I think, is absolutely critical. Visualizing what it would be like being with that person long term.
And being in sync with the core values then, because if all those factors are into play, you better have similar core values.
Totally.
And learning to counterbalance those core values to make sure you maximize the time together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's spot on.
Represent people in divorce, you see good people at their worst. So I've seen, stay-at-home moms who, in the middle of a courtroom, throw something at their spouse.
The biggest mistake that people make when they're getting divorced is to make this into the winner and loser situation.
How do you not do that? It's an adversarial process. You can't, I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah, like the previous article that talked about that legally that person is your enemy.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to look at it.
And you also have lawyers. Like these are high-powered lawyers. They're not going to want to feel like, they lost. So they're going to want to do everything they can to feel like they walked away winning. And so is the other side.
Well, it's a little contradictory because the first guy is basically saying it's a lottery ticket or you're going to get hit in the head with a bowling ball.
Yeah.
But then you can't have a winner and loser, really? You can't have it both ways either,
I mean, I like what they said about if you're getting divorced, don't get emotional, right? But again, that's overly simplistic because the entire process is set up. And in fact, your history and upbringing, like we talked about in that prior episode, if you're feeling like your identity is being ripped away from you. You're going to be emotional. Just saying don't be emotional is
it's a blanket. It's an easy blanket statement.
Yeah, way too easy. And the thanks, dude, but you're literally trying to win my case.
They get so caught up into standing their ground that they lose focus of what really matters and the collateral damage that's happening around.
That's an important point that we talked about in the last one. So, yes, don't lose sight. There's certain things that you want to fight for, certain pieces of ground that you want to give so that you don't create so much collateral damage that it's not worth it.
And then prioritizing the things that matter, like the kids.
Yeah.
The relationship in the future, all of those things. But it still is a very emotional process. And you have to work through and uncouple through this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The key here is to keep your eye on the prize.
One of the best ways, in my opinion, to keep your eye on the prize is for both, and they don't do this. Again, stupidity. We are not trained to know better. We don't go into this, having 3 to 6 months of preparation and premarital counseling, and we don't come out of it with the same thing. But you could, if both sides were to simply find good coaches or good therapists during this process, and I mean good, that's a tough one too.
Yes.
Then you'd be better equipped to keep your eye on the prize.
No,
but
I agree.
They don't. They wait till the end of it.
They blend it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so before the legal process, maybe see someone, consciously uncouple, see your options and choices, and then go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like Lauren, my divorce lawyer, she says that in many cases, she becomes the therapist. And she's like, I'm not trained to do that, but that's what happened. Like, look, you're getting divorced. You hiring one expert to do the legal stuff, you hiring a divorce lawyer doesn't mean that you've also hired a therapist.
Agreed.
It means that you hired a divorce lawyer. And so if both people in that process go and if they both found good coaches at that time, then you'd have a very different experience in this.
It'd be a more peaceful dynamic. The priorities would be set. It'd be a better experience versus it all being enmeshed.
Yeah. Instead, usually they get through this whole process. Then they're like, oh, I got to go do some personal work. And they go.
Maybe on the flip side, if you're the client, because I'm paying so much money, you're going to be my damn therapist too.
that is what it is. I'm sure that's what it is. It's like,
You know?
I'm paying you so much, I might as well. And you'll get some pieces of decent advice from a divorce lawyer, of course, because they've had a lot of experience. But they can't help you deal with, your personal trauma, unwinding why it is that you feel the way that you do and how to deal with those things.
Yeah, it basically comes down to the legalities of everything.
Yeah. They can say, if I were in this situation, this is the route that I would go.
Right.
That's it.
Right. Yeah, but emotionally, they can't really offer more than that.
Job to take your hand and walk you through this path, which is very scary, but the goal is to get to the other side, not to get stuck in the middle. I don't think that you have as much drama, unpredictable day-to-day experiences that you have in divorce and family law.
That's
Being
true.
a divorce lawyer has helped me figure out in my own marriage
I
what I'm fighting
I felt like she was about to say, help me figure out that I never want to get married. Has helped me figure out in my own marriage what I'm fighting for.
and what I really don't want to lose.
I've been a divorce lawyer for 17 years. I still get teary-eyed at weddings. If I was to say to people, what they should try to hold on to is that sense of being this other person's cheerleader and being connected to them.
Okay. Thanks, Glamour. That was cool.
Closing thoughts. What did you think of the closing statements?
I mean, overall, I liked it. And I think that they had a lot of really great points, namely going back to that preparation side. I mean, if there was a lot more preparation in this process, then it would go very differently. And I think a lot of their points were good. Like, don't go into it expecting someone to be someone that they're not. Don't be realistic about what this is. Have a proper plan. When it got to the place of like, okay, so you're getting divorced now, don't get emotional. That felt overly simplistic and whatnot. But for the most part, I really liked it.
No, I agree. I mean, I think they're emphasizing the practicality of what marriage is.
Yeah.
And how it can go down south and all of the repercussions and the consequences that can take place. And you need to factor all of that in.
Yeah. We got to bring Lauren in. And I want to ask, what are like the 5 most common reasons why people divorce? Or what are the things that are brought up most? Like, what are the biggest areas of conflict that divorce lawyers see? I think that'd be really fun
That'd
to
be a great one.
uncover.
Yeah.
But okay. Well, thank you, Glamour. That was an awesome video. Thank you for all the lawyers that participated in that.
That was great.
The bowling ball analogy, I'm never going to forget.
The lottery ticket and the
The
bowling
lottery
ball.
ticket and the bowling ball. All right, that's it for this episode. We do have individual and couples coaching available at 12weekrelationships.com, where you guys can hop on and do a free 15-minute consult with Dr. Glen. He can explain exactly what the process is and how it can help you. In the meantime, we'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast. And like always, we're going to ask you to hop onto the iTunes store. And if you'd like, it would help us tremendously to give us a review, ideally a positive one, you know?
Yes, please.
For negative reviews, DM us.
Yes.
Tell us any critique you might have. But also let us know what questions you have, because we love bringing your questions onto the podcast, and we will do so anonymously. That's it for us.
Awesome.
You got anything to add?
That's it. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll see
Thank
you guys
you.
next time. Peace.